Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really ancient source, parts of the book of Job, chapter 12 specifically, and we're going to see what profound insights it still holds for us. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to explore how this incredibly old text can maybe reshape how we think about obedience, how it strengthens our faith in God, especially when life just doesn't seem to make sense. Yeah, this isn't just, dusting off historical documents. It's about finding wisdom that genuinely lasts, that challenges maybe some of our own assumptions about things like perspective, suffering, and divine power. We've got Job's own words here, raw and unfiltered, plus some analysis to help connect that ancient world to our lives today. We're hoping to uncover some deep truths that might just shift how you see things. Okay, so let's get into it. We're starting in Job chapter 12. This is right in the middle of Job's immense suffering. His friends Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar, they've shown up, supposedly to comfort him, right? But instead, they've kind of launched into these lectures. They're convinced his misfortune must be because of some, hidden sin. And Job, amazingly, he doesn't hold back at all. He's sharp, he's direct, his words really cut through their flawed thinking.
That's exactly right. He opens with this really powerful sarcasm. It's almost confrontational. He tells them, "No doubt, but ye are the people, and wisdom shall die with you." I mean, that's quite a retort, isn't it? He's basically saying, oh, so you think you've cornered the market on wisdom, that everything revolves around your neat little understanding. Think again. He's stating pretty clearly, I'm just as intelligent, just as observant as you are, even though he's in this terrible state. It's a direct hit against their arrogance, both intellectual and spiritual.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how he just immediately takes apart their assumption. This idea that because they're comfortable, because they think they're wise, that somehow makes them superior, or like they have a special line to God's secrets. And he points right at this harsh reality that people who are at ease often look down on those suffering. He says, he that is ready to slip with his feet is as a lamp despised in the thought of him that is at ease.
This feels bigger than just his own hurt feelings, right?
Oh, definitely. He's hitting on a universal human thing, judging the suffering, thinking prosperity means God's favor and hardship means disapproval. It's sort of a critique of that tidy little worldview that just falls apart when real trouble hits.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. To really hammer home his point about God's sovereignty over everything, he uses nature, he challenges them, says, but ask now the beasts and the fowls of the air, or speak to the earth, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. It's like he's saying, look around you. Even creation itself, the most basic parts of existence, they all testify to God's absolute power and control. It's a beautiful way to say the natural order, life, death, the sheer power of nature. It all points to a creator who's way beyond our human frameworks. He stresses that it's God in whose hand is the soul of every living thing and the breath of all mankind. So this connection to nature is like this undeniable proof of God's total sovereignty over life, death, success, failure. It's a huge shift from their very human-focused cause and effect kind of theology.
Right. So after dealing with his friends and pointing to creation, Job then looks upwards, doesn't he? He focuses right on God's incredible power. And it's sometimes unsettling power he describes. It's not just a list of attributes. He's describing a God who actively seems to, mess with human expectations.
Yes, absolutely. He lays it out with this real sense of awe. He says, with him is wisdom and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. Okay, foundation laid. But then he lists the ways God shows his power, often in ways that seem to disrupt human logic, human control. He talks about God breaking down what can't be rebuilt, holding back, or sending floods that just overturn the earth. This isn't just raw power. It's a power that can undo anything humans achieve, no matter how big. And he points out how God leads advisors and judges astray, basically stripping the wise of their smarts. He loosens the bonds of kings, throws down the mighty, humbling the powerful, even takes away the understanding of the aged, the very people usually respected for wisdom, reveals deep things hidden in darkness, makes nations rise and fall. What's really striking is Job isn't just saying God is powerful. He's saying God actively disrupts our human systems. He confounds our neat little boxes of control and predictability. God operates on a totally different scale, beyond our limited view. This part really drives home that God's wisdom isn't just bigger than ours. It's fundamentally different. It's unpredictable, often beyond our grasp, which really demands, a profound sense of awe and ultimately trust.
Wow. Okay, so bring this forward. What does this actually mean for us living now? This wisdom from Job 12, it's not just a history lesson. It feels incredibly relevant, like it directly impacts how we handle challenges, how we approach our faith today.
Absolutely. If we sort of zoom out, a huge lesson Job is hammering home is that wisdom isn't only found among the comfortable. Job's own terrible experience shows us pretty powerfully that suffering can actually deepen your insight.
Yeah.
about life, about God. It's not necessarily a sign you lack wisdom or that God's mad at you. And this challenges something very common in us, that tendency to confuse comfort with being right. Do we sometimes assume someone's wise or correct just because they're successful or healthy or, not obviously suffering?
That's a good point.
Job shows us comfort can actually lead to a kind of arrogance, maybe superficial judgment, while real pain often cracks you open to a deeper perspective on reality, on God's ways. So finding wisdom in unexpected places, especially from those who've suffered, that's not just about being nice. It genuinely strengthens our faith by broadening our view of how God works, and it keeps us humble.
That's a really powerful reminder. It's so easy to fall into that trap, assuming someone's struggles are somehow their own fault, which leads right into the second point, doesn't it? God's sovereignty covers both the good times and the bad times, and that's a tough one to really embrace, especially when you're the one going through hardship.
It really is. Job states it so plainly. God is in control of the ups and the downs, for people, for nations, for events. He's not just the God of the good stuff. And this just blows apart that simplistic thinking that, good things happen to good people, approved by God, and bad things happen to bad people, disapproved by God. For us today, this means we're called to acknowledge God's hand, even when things make absolutely no sense. We might not get the why. Why this disaster? Why does this good person suffer so much? Why does injustice seem to win sometimes? But we're called to trust his ultimate justice, his power, even when we're surrounded by mystery. And that kind of profound trust, even when things are inexplicable, is a huge way we strengthen our faith. It deepens our reliance on him when our own understanding just fails. And it encourages a kind of humble obedience to his plan, even when we can't see it.
And thinking about how we treat others, Job's friends, well, they weren't exactly models of compassion, were they? They were so quick to correct him, to condemn him almost.
Not at all. Job really highlights this. Those who mock the hurting aren't wise. He saw it clearly. People who are comfortable, at ease, often completely lack compassion for those really struggling. So this gives us a direct, pretty urgent call. Speak gently to those who are suffering. Job's friends just wounded him more with their words, didn't they? Piling these theological arguments onto his raw pain. This chapter really challenges us to be compassionate first, to listen with empathy, to offer comfort, not just correction, when people are grieving or questioning or just hurting. And that's a powerful act of obedience, isn't it? Showing our faith through love and understanding, even when we don't fully get their pain or have easy answers. It's practical empathy.
Yeah, and that flows right into humility, it seems. Job is kind of teaching a masterclass in it, both for himself and maybe indirectly for his friends.
Yes, exactly. A crucial takeaway for us today is to beware of spiritual arrogance. Like Job's friends, sometimes people talk as if they've got a direct line, like they have a monopoly on truth. They think they understand God's complex plans or the reason behind every single thing that happens. Job reminds us, stay humble. Recognize that God's ways are just infinitely bigger than any one person's understanding or any group's viewpoint. And he also really pushes us to respect the wisdom that comes from suffering. People who've walked through those deep, dark valleys, they often gain a clarity about life, about what really matters about God, that frankly, those who've never been seriously tested just can't have.
That rings true.
So, in our time, we should actively try to listen to voices shaped by hardship, not dismiss them as weak or, lacking faith. Doing that fosters a much more inclusive, humble understanding of how God works everywhere. It strengthens our faith by showing us God's presence in maybe unexpected places. And it encourages this really profound obedience to the idea that true wisdom often starts with humility, with being willing to learn from sources we might initially overlook.
Wow, what a deep dive into just one chapter of Job. We've seen Job right from the pit of his suffering just powerfully affirm God's absolute power, God's wisdom, and challenging those easy answers that try to tie blessings only to comfort or hardship only to obvious sin. It's such a strong reminder that real wisdom isn't just for the comfortable or the successful, and that God's ways are, well, much bigger and more mysterious than we can fully grasp.
Absolutely. And that key verse really captures it, doesn't it? Job 12:22. With him is wisdom and strength. He have counsel and understanding. It just centers us right back on God's unmatched wisdom. Reminds us that our own knowledge, it's always limited. It needs to be held with real humility. And doing that deepens our faith, inspires our trust.
So here's something to think about this week. How might you apply some of this wisdom from Job 12? Maybe by actively listening with more compassion to someone who's struggling, perhaps holding back that quick judgment or easy answer. Or maybe, how could you deepen your own trust in God's sovereignty even when things in your life just don't seem to make any sense right now?